G'day, g'day. My name's Alan Gamble. Welcome to another episode of Aussie Box Office Charts. Weekend number 2 of 2026. Let's dive in. Not too much has changed. At number 1, we have Avatar, Fire and Ash with another $4.6 million. Its fourth weekend release, dropping 34% for a current total of $46.3 million. Still holding pretty well. Breaking that $45 million mark means it's the only contender to Minecraft movie for 2025. Will it get there? We're going to drill into those numbers shortly. The Housemaid at number 2 with another $3.3 million, its third week in release, dropping just 7% in its third week for a current total of $13.4 million, turning into a bit of a surprise holiday hit. I think everyone expected Anaconda to do those numbers, so it was a bit of a surprise that The Housemaid came out on top. Zootopia 2, in its 7th week of release, dropping just 4% with another $2.2 million for a current total of $34.2 million. Really good. That one is moving up the 2025 chart. We'll check in on that later as well. Anaconda at number 4 with another $1.9 million, its third week in release, dropping 32%, which is what we was more expecting from The Housemaid, for a current total of $12.1 million. And holding number 5 again for its second week in a row is Song Sung Blue with another $1.7 million, dropping 24% for a current total of $5.8 million. Moving on to 6 through 10, at number 6 we have SpongeBob the Movie, The Search for SquarePants, its third week in release, dropping 14%, bringing in another $1.1 million for a current total of just over $6.6 million. The Coral has a little bit of a hefty drop in its second week of release, with another $480,000 dropping 42% in its second week for a current total of just over $2 million. At number 8, we have the Raja Saab with just under $400,000. Its opening week, it is a big Telugu language movie out of India about a young heir that embraces his royal heritage and rebellious spirit as he rises to power. So, big song and dance numbers, I'm sure, out of this Tollywood movie. At number 9, with another $300,000, its 8th week in release, with dropping 37%, is Wicked for Good, with a current total of just over $32.4 million. So we'll check in on that, how it's holding up on the top 10 shortly. And rounding out the top 10 is Six the Musical, with $300,000 just over, for a current total of $380,000. Alright, so let's check in on Avatar, Fire and Ash, compared to the original 2009 Avatar and Avatar The Way of the Water. You can see here our week-by-week tracking has Avatar, Fire and Ash continuing to fall off the pace. This just means there's less people going to see it again. I myself have only seen Avatar, Fire and Ash once at the cinema, where Avatar I saw, like 3 or 4 times, and Avatar The Way of the Water I saw twice. I think that trend is not just for me. So you can see how they all start fairly close together. Week 2, they're still fairly close together. And then weekend 3 and 4, The Way of Water and the original Avatar continue to go up, as they do in week 4, sticking fairly close together. But Avatar Fire and Ash has just trailing off the pace. It's still a significantly smash hit for Australia. It's the second highest grossing movie in Australia for the year so far, and it looks to be chasing down a Minecraft movie, which we'll check into that now, which you can see they're sticking far closer together. The reason I say this one isn't decided yet between a Minecraft movie and Avatar Fire and Ash is a Minecraft movie fell off really hard in week 5. So because the gap is so close, Avatar Fire and Ash doesn't have to do too much work to catch that gap, to close that gap, and to maybe beat it. We'll be watching it very closely because I think it's going to come down to the wire. It's all going to depend on what Avatar Fire and Ash does next week, I think. That's going to be our make or break story for what's going to end up the highest grossing movie of 2025 in Australia. So first up, the 2026 top 10, which I'm not going to spend too much time on because it's rapidly changing. And over the next, 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to be a whole bunch of movies that are not going to be here at the end of the year. But for now, Song Sung Blue is the number one movie of 2026 with $5.8 million. The Coral is at number 2 with just over $2 million. The Pout Pout Fish at $800,000. The Raha Saab at number 4 with $380,000. Six the Musical at number 5 with $380,000. Grand Prix of Europe with just under $300,000. And then Parasaki at $149,000 at number 7. Nouveau Vague at number 8 with $114,000. Resurrection at number 9 with $86,000. And Ikis at number 10 with $45,000. Again, when we look at the upcoming releases in just a second, you will see why this is going to change next weekend. But flipping back over to the 2025 releases, so everything released in calendar year 2025 is still battling to be on top of this chart. A Minecraft movie sitting at number 1 with $56.2 million. That is the number that Avatar Fire and Ash wants to beat. It's currently at second at its $46.3 million. Lilo and Stitch at number 3 with $34.3 million. That is going to be beaten by Zootopia 2 next weekend, because Zootopia 2 has moved up to number 4 with $34.2 million. It's going to catch Lilo and Stitch. Zootopia 2 is going to be the third highest grossing movie of 2025 in Australia. Wicked for Good is down to number 5, which it actually overtook Jurassic World Rebirth, but then got bumped back down by Zootopia 2, overtaking the pair of them. But Wicked for Good at number 5 with $32.4 million. At number 6 goes down Jurassic World Rebirth with its $31.5 million. How to Train Your Dragon moves down to 7 with $30.4 million. F1 the Movie sits at number 8 with $30.2 million. And Superman stays at number 9 with $24.9 million. And rounding out the top 10 for 2025 is Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning with $23.6 million. Okay, as I mentioned, upcoming releases. This is why the top movies of 2026 is about to change, because there's a lot coming out this week. January and February are normally fairly quiet, but we do still have quite a bit, and certainly not this week. So, in wide release, 15th of January. Wide release, we have 28 years later, The Bone Temple. The next follow-up to the 28X Later series. This one is directed by Nia DaCosta, but still written by Alex Garland as a direct follow-on from the previous one last year. Then we have Hamnet, the next big awards contender that releases in Australia. This romance drama is directed by Chloe Zhao and starring Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal, and is getting a lot of Oscar buzz. We also have David, a new animated version of the story of David for the more faith-based audience. Now, this one, for some reason, was supposed to release on Boxing Day, but apparently didn't. So it's showing as releasing this weekend. In limited release, so check your smaller and more indie cinemas, we have Grow, a family comedy directed by John McPhail, written by Nick Guthrie. We have Hijacked, a Vietnamese action thriller set on a plane directed by Ham Tran. And No Other Choice, another awards contender, mostly in the international film categories, if you're familiar. I've already seen this one. It's amazing. Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice. It's from Korea. It is one of my favorite movies of 2025. So do yourself a favor and catch that one if you can. If you like a crime thriller tinged with social commentary, but also it's got a layer of black comedy that landed really well for me. I thought it was quite funny in a very dark way. Moving across to streaming, new releases, we have also a bunch of big streaming releases, so buckle up. First up, we have Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. The latest Star Trek iteration on Paramount Plus releases on January 15th, this time looking like it's aiming for the more high school drama angle. Will it work? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out. I might watch the first episode or two to see exactly how much they're aiming for that YA crowd. We'll see. Then we have A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the latest iteration / spin-off from the Game of Thrones franchise. That means Mr. Martin is too busy to finish the book. This one releases on HBO Max in January 19th. We also have Ponies. Speaking of Game of Thrones, Ponies is a new spy thriller set in the 70s starring Emilia Clarke and Haley Lou Richardson, and can be found on Binge January 15th. We also have Agatha Christie's Seven Dials, a new mystery drama series on Netflix that releases on the 15th of January. Then we have The Rip, the latest action movie from director Joe Carnahan, who has been hit and miss over the years. This one is starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck back together, along with Tiana Taylor and Sasha Calle, and can be found on Netflix January 16th. In returning series, we have Hijack, Season 2 on January 14th, returning on Apple TV+. Season 1 was set on a plane, real-time clock, I was a fan. Season 2 is set on a train. I love trains, so I'm going to be checking that one out. I can't wait. But that's what's upcoming. A lot, no matter if you're on streaming or theatrical, lots to watch. Enjoy. Back to 5 movies watched for this week's challenge of highly rated. Let's jump in. First up, with a Letterboxd score of 4.1, was Lady Vengeance from director Park Chan-wook and starring Lee Young-ae and Choi Min-sik. Set following a woman after she was released from prison after 13 years for a crime she didn't commit. A classic Korean revenge movie that I'd never gotten around to. And it was great. Not exactly what I was expecting, but it was really good, and a surprise Australian cameo. Next up was Drive My Car from 2021 with a Letterboxd score of 4.2, directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi and starring Hitoshi Nishijima and Toko Miura. What I expected to be a heavy melodrama was really something more, and not at all what I was expecting from this one. For example, I didn't expect this one to have as much sex as it does. That's not what I was expecting. If you have put this one off because of preconceptions, it's not like that. Next, with a Letterboxd score of 4.0, was Sorry, A Wife from the Future, directed by Yandy Lawrence and starring Sheila Dara Ashia and Dion Wiyoko. A light sci-fi romance playing on the trappings of a Groundhog Day situation. Pretty solid, except the main setting of your life needs to be improved, but the guy's life was awesome. 100% sign me up to the life as a traveling photographer living across Europe. That sounds awesome. My life doesn't need to be improved. Thanks for nothing. Finally, was a couple of rewatches. The first with a Letterboxd score of 3.9, Steven Soderbergh's Ocean 11 from 2001, starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Andy Garcia, and Matt Damon, among many others. A great classic heist movie with all of the rule of cool. Had not seen it since like 2014 or something. Great to rewatch it. The final rewatch with a score of 4.1 was Denis Villeneuve's 2017 masterpiece, Blade Runner 2049, starring Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, and Ana de Armas. One of my favourite movies of all time, and one I think is actually better than the original in many ways. And this rewatch, I actually watched the IMAX/open matte version that I had sitting around for ages but never gotten time to watch. Such a good movie. This week's Cinechums movie challenge is siblings. So movies about siblings, movie stars are siblings, or they worked on the movie like the Coens or the Safdies or the Wachowskis. So people have kicked it off with things like My Neighbor Totoro and Dead with the Devil. We've got things like Black Widow and Big Daddy and Fargo and Grave of the Fireflies and Little Women. So let's have a look at my shortlist. Not a lot on my shortlist. I do have things like maybe The Bone Temple will count, His Three Daughters, Rain Man, Hudsucker Proxy, Jupiter Ascending, The Unknown Girl, Sister Midnight. I might try and weasel that one in. Our Little Sister and My Neighbor Totoro. So we'll see how we go. But that is it for me this week. Tune in next week. I will be doing a fun double feature this weekend of both Hamnet and then 28 years later The Bone Temple for some nice tonal contrast. And we will be seeing how those do at the box office next week. I'll be curious to see how Hamnet does. It's a smaller awards contender, but sometimes they bring out the right crowd. There's been a lot of talk about Hamnet, so I'm keen to see what it does. I don't think either of them will dethrone Avatar. Maybe 28 years later can knock it down to second. We're going to have to see. But that's it from me. Have a good one. Watch more movies. Bye.